Bringing people and communities together on seclosounds.org.
Your listening station.
Hi, I'm Terry Sullivan and welcome to this week's Sticks radio show. I hope the bank holiday weekend has been kind to you. This week on the show I have a couple of guests. They're both therapists from the Local Counselling Centre. It's Joe and Krystal. We'll be talking to them in a few minutes, but first let's play one of my favourite tracks from the 80s. Rather appropriately, this is the Human League and this is Love Action. Today on the show I've got two people from the Local Counselling Centre. I have Joe and Krystal. How are we doing?
Hi, good to meet you.
Thank you.
Okay, tell us a little bit about the Local Counselling Centre and what you do and how you got into what you do. Firstly, Joe.
Yeah, well, Local Counselling Centre is a centre that offers general counselling to the public. We offer a full cost service with our qualified therapists and a low cost service for people on reduced means. But I guess our specialist service is our psychosexual and relationship service. Relationships struggle pretty hard in today's world, and we're able to offer those people help in times when relationships hit the skids, as it were. So that's really our service. We're based in Letchworth and Bedfordshire, 2 offices, and we really cover the home counties.
So you cover Hertfordshire, Bedfordshire and Buckinghamshire?
Yeah, we
Good
do
stuff.
indeed. We do indeed.
Good stuff. And what do you do, Krystal?
I'm a psychosexual and relationship therapist, so I work for the service as well. So I work both in Rest Park in Silsoe and in Letchworth as well. So I see couples and individuals of any sexual orientation with any number of sexual relationship issues.
Okay. Have you found in the last sort of few years that you've got busier?
Yes, I think we have. There's been a significant cutback in the NHS facilities, so that kind of has prompted people to seek for themselves, help outside. And I think people are beginning to be much more open about the problems they have and go and get some help for them. We work very closely with local medical community, and of course a lot of people are referred via that route.
So do you have to be referred by a GP, or
No,
can
you can come to us. People come from many routes. People come from, seeing us on our registers. We're all members of the College of Sex and Relationship Therapists, or they come through GPs, or they come through, seeing advertising, or people who've been in the service and have got some help.
And I think also there's been a lot of media attention recently on sex and relationships, and I think that might have prompted also kind of influx of clients approaching us for that reason too, so there's been a lot of publicity about it.
It's very isolating when you've got a sexual problem, because it's not something that, though we laugh at sex as a society, we don't actually talk very intimately to our friends and family about sex and our difficulties. So, it's good when people find somewhere they can actually go and own those problems.
I suppose it's a bit like being an alcoholic. You have to admit you're an alcoholic before you seek help.
Yes, yeah. It's actually, I think it's even more difficult, because sometimes you don't even know what the problems are. You just know that something isn't working, and it's very common both for young and for people as they go through all the stages of life. And we're there to help them.
That's good. That's good. So Joe, how did you get into this sort of...
Well, gosh, it's been a long pathway for me. I was an oncology nurse in London at Barts, and then moved into the community as a health visitor, and I became very fascinated by people's relationships. So I retrained as a psychologist, and then felt there was still a component missing, that people would talk about relationships, but when it came to sex, the medical profession would say nothing. So, they talk about your cancer diagnosis, but they wouldn't talk about the effect, perhaps, say, of losing a breast on your sex life or your feelings about yourself as a woman. So at that point I trained to be a psychosexual and relationship therapist. So I've kind of had quite a long pathway, if you like, to this point. It's in some ways I think that's probably good. I've learnt lots of things along the way, but that was my pathway through.
Okay. And you obviously enjoy what you do.
I absolutely love my work. I mean, it's an honour and a privilege to meet every client we do, and to be able to help them in their journey to feel much more comfortable in themselves and their sexuality.
And I guess you've had many satisfied clients.
Absolutely, in many ways. And that's wonderful. That's what we want. We work very hard to each client is very different. Their needs are different, and the way we work with them will be different. But I mean, what we want is to help people experience a much more satisfactory relationship and sex life in however that suits them.
Okay. And you, Krystal?
Well, my background's very similar to Joe's actually in my routine. So I trained and qualified as a nurse and worked in the NHS for a number of years before. I noticed similar things to Joe. So, I really valued spending the time with the patients when I was working on the wards, and clinical skills were obviously very important. I did enjoy the patient contact and relationships I had with them, and taking the time to really talk to them about their issues. And I did urology nursing for a long time. So
what's urology?
Urology is looking after patients who have illnesses or anything that goes wrong with the waterworks, basically.
Okay.
So we're looking at kidneys, bladder, and that sort of thing, prostate problems. So a lot of these patients are often men. From the age of about 40 upwards, they were the kind of biggest patient group, and they often had issues with sex following prostate surgery, for example. And that was never really talked about, certainly with the consultants or with the oncology nurses as well. They never really went into the sexual side of things and how that might be affected following surgery or certain treatments. And I kind of felt that also because of the different demands on the NHS, I didn't really have time to really spend with those patients, and I thought about retraining as a counsellor for a while, and actually ended up going into psychosexual and relationship counselling from there, really. So I've worked in that capacity since.
Yeah, I think the NHS has probably got this, well, and maybe so, that the nurses only have, and the doctors when you go to the NHS, only have so much time for each client or each patient.
Right. Yeah.
And I think, the pressure on the time, and I think even when you go to the doctors yourself, I go very rarely, thank goodness, but you feel you've only got like 3 minutes. You sit down in the chair and you've only got 3 minutes, and I feel under pressure to get.
I think that's right, and I think there's also the tension where you're talking about, say, for example, a cancer diagnosis. There's the tension about curative versus sexuality and relationship needs. So the medical teams, understandably, become very focused on getting the person well, trying to cure the disease, eliminate the disease, and often don't look at the more holistic picture of the effect of the disease on the person and their relationship, and indeed their sex life.
So I always find if I go to the doctors, if I've got a little problem, whatever it is, it may be nothing, but once you've actually been to see him, and he says, oh, that's nothing, it'll go next week, you feel better yourself. The placebo effect seems to kick in. So I suppose to a certain amount you can help with that as well, because if you get a client and he sort of discusses, or she or they discuss their problem, and you say, oh, you just give them a sort of little bit of sort of advice, the placebo effect can kick in. They actually really don't need any, because people get this big thing, I must go to the doctors and I must come away with tablets. And I think a lot of people are like that. I personally am glad I'm not to have tablets, but a lot of people sort of, when they come away from the doctors, oh, he hasn't given me anything, and I think a lot of people got this conception about doctors that, but I'm always happy when I'm come away from the doctor. And
it's that kind of reassurance.
Yeah.
I mean, I think from our point of view, it's very helpful to us if people approach us fairly early on with diagnoses that are going to perhaps interfere with their sex life and their relationships, because we can, as you say, we can provide reassurance and we can help them at a much earlier stage, which is easier. It's much more difficult if problems become very entrenched, because then you enter the world of, you become an entrenched cognitive thinking pattern, which is then much more difficult to kind of undo. But we work very hard to highlight to the medical profession that it is really important that people in this kind of position get some help, and at least have the pathway that they can get the help that they need.
For the best travel locations around the globe, book your seat for the John Gwynn Travel Show on Seklo Sounds every Monday at 12 noon. Hear the latest advice and recommendations to help you achieve maximum enjoyment and value from your trip, no matter where you want to go or what you want to do. Also, check out John's travel report as he reveals the things that the travel industry could do better. The John Gwynn Travel Show, Mondays at 12 noon on Seklo Sounds. Check it out before you check in.
You
to trust her. Then somebody hangs up when you answer the phone. When you're in love with a beautiful woman, you're going alone. Maybe it's just an ego problem. Problem is I've been fooled before. My fair weather friends and faint-hearted lovers, and every time it happens, it just convinces me more. When you're in love with a beautiful woman, you watch her eyes.
Watch your eyes, baby, watch your eyes.
When you're in love with a beautiful woman, you look for lies. Everybody tempts her, everybody tells her she's the most beautiful woman they know. When you're in love with a beautiful woman, you're going alone. When you're in love with a beautiful woman, you watch your friends.
Watch your friends, you better watch your friends, you better look out.
When you're in love with a beautiful woman, oh, it never ends.
Never ends, you know it never ends.
When you're in love with a beautiful woman, you watch your eyes.
Watch your eyes, baby, watch your eyes, you better watch your eyes.
When you're in love with a beautiful woman, keep looking for lies.
You're listening to the Sticks Radio Show with Terry Sullivan here on Secklow Sounds, broadcasting from the old rectory in Milton Keynes, across the world. I suppose we'll touch on this now. The sort of the book that everybody's been talking about for the last 3 or 4 years, the 50 Shades trilogy. I think has that sort of helped, or has that hindered, or what do you think about?
I think that a lot's been written, hasn't it, Krystal, about the 50 Shades. Some of it good and some of it bad. I think it's been absolutely fascinating because what it's shown to us is actually women do like to be aroused by written pornography, and I think that's very interesting.
And it has just the breadth of it as well, the amount of women reading the book on the tube, on the bus, you see them everywhere, reading, or have seen them everywhere reading this book, and it just shows the extent of
I think so, yeah. And
women are
the age range, you know, certainly I've had clients who the daughter, the mother, the grandmother are reading it. And that's very interesting. I think it shows a very healthy interest in sex. I think the relationship portrayed perhaps isn't necessarily healthy, but what we find arousing in fantasy is often very different from what we find arousing day to day. So it's a fantasy escape, if you like.
Because it's an interplay between a younger lady and an older gentleman, and the gentleman has money.
Well, he's not that much older, I suppose. I mean, he's a bit older, and he's been around the block a few times. But he has, interestingly, he has money, so he has power, and he has sexual experience, which is a certain type of power. And she's very inexperienced. And I guess it's kind of that kind of fantasy of what it's like to be inexperienced and have somebody have sex with you who's very experienced and experimental. But I think it's, as I say, it's very much highlighted that women do enjoy pornography, but it has to be perhaps in the medium of written more than visual. Men tend to, broadly speaking, like more visual cues to enable their sexual arousal, whereas women perhaps like to create their fantasy. They like to interact with the words and create their own vision.
So yeah, because it's a bit like when books are turned into films. I believe 50 Shades is being made into a film, I think, this year.
Yes.
And I think sometimes I've read books and then I've seen the film, not 50 Shades, I hasten to add, and there's been real big disappointment. And
Yes.
so I think we all have, when we read a book, we all imagine, Freddie's a certain, maybe a certain actor or somebody we know, and you can relate to that character, whereas in the film, they're often, it's in your face, and it's not quite as...
And I think you raise a very interesting point, and perhaps somebody ought to, conduct some research around that. How will women respond to the film compared to the book? That would be really interesting.
Yeah, because if women do respond more to their own fantasies and creating a scenario in their mind, which is what they find arousing, to have it actually given to them in a visual way, may not be... you could theorise it may not be so arousing. It would be interesting to see.
It'd be very interesting, I think.
But also, I think it's the type of fantasy as well. I think a lot of women I mean, I don't know, it could be argued as well that because the woman in the book, because she is inexperienced and there is somebody with more experience there, that she's almost innocent, you know, in all of this, so she can unashamedly experience her sexuality, you know, in that way. So I don't know.
Because the last movie they sort of made with that sort of thing in was the Millennium Trilogy, the the girl with the dragon tattoo.
Yes, yeah.
I read the books. I've read all 3 of the books. I loved the books, but I saw the movie, the American version.
Yeah.
And it wasn't good.
I agree with you. I think the American version was disappointing compared to the Danish version.
Yes.
I thought that was really, really
version was
good.
powerful.
And I thought it was. They were incredible books. You know, kind of raising consciousness about abuse and the vulnerability of the main character. Slightly different aspect, I suppose, in that, you know, that's not kind of, I suppose, the same kind of arousal one hopes for people, but. All these books kind of give us some kind of insight into people's sexuality and function.
Because it's sort of opened the sort of that was the sort of first one, and then you got obviously the 50 Shades trilogy, and obviously there's been loads of new ones, hasn't there? Is it Black Lace trilogy? Is it Black Lace?
Yeah, there's a few
there's
out
a few
there
of them
on the
now.
shelf.
Now suddenly
now,
suddenly sort of the clones
Yeah.
of these books, and I mean that will only surely that will only help you to a certain amount, or help you.
I think it does help. I mean, I think reading young girls often, I can think back to my own development in sexuality, reading was really important, and, you know, books would be circulated in amongst your group, and that's an important part of kind of learning to feel your own sexual being, and an important stage in development. And I guess, Krystal, we often see people who that stage has been missed.
I completely agree, and
Yeah.
I've seen clients who haven't explored their own sexuality at all. They've kind of bypassed that for a number of different reasons, and then when they find themselves in a relationship or a marriage, and because they've bypassed their own sexual development, actually when they're with somebody and they want to actually have a sexual, intimate, romantic relationship with that person, there are all sorts of barriers because they haven't explored their own sexuality. It's very difficult for them to explore that with somebody else, for them to come together in that way. So
I know you can't talk about specific cases, but what sort of age range do you actually see?
Oh gosh, 18 to 80.
Yeah.
You know,
Really, as young as 18.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think it's, you know, it's a real kind of false belief out there that everybody who's young is having great sex. You know, if I had sort of money for everybody who's young, great looking, and seems to have it all, who has difficulties, are probably quite wealthy. You know, it's across the board. You know, it can actually be quite difficult for people who look as if they're kind of great at sex, and they find it difficult. So
because there's an expectation,
there
isn't
is.
there, that they are, because of what the media portrays and how the types of people that are having sex, and lots of it, and great sex, are all a certain type of person. So there are lots of expectations on people. There's a tremendous amount of pressure for men and women to conform in that way. So the issue of sex is everywhere. It's all in the media, but problems with sex are not what's talked about, and that's the problem.
No, I think it's a lot of the time it's sort of implied, isn't it? I mean, there's these shows like Towie and is it Made in Chelsea, is it?
Yeah.
And all that, where you get should we say the body beautiful ladies and gentlemen, and you know, and I think people who sort of see that, and I think it's a bit like this size zero business. People who know me certainly know I'm certainly not size zero. You know, and I think it's a bit like the old story about the so-called models or good-looking people. They go into clubs and nobody will actually approach them because of they're frightened of being kicked back and frightened. But and also the models or the beautiful people, should we say, that they're actually not. They don't get that many people that come to them, and that can lead.
They, like everyone else, struggles. I think the other group that we see that struggles is, of course, with more relationship breakup. People perhaps are entering, you know, into a second relationship in their 40s, 50s, and the world is very different from when they were younger. And so those people struggle tremendously, often forming new relationships, thinking about how sex has changed, thinking about how the risk there might be to themselves out there in the world, even though they're older. And those people often will come to see us to try and, you know, get to grips with the changes that have been happening.
So, the difference between sort of like the advice you give to an 18-year-old and then to an 80-year-old, or the counselling you give must be different.
They'd be different because obviously their needs and wants are different, and the experience that they've had in life is very different. So, but that goes across the board, even with people of the same age. You treat them as individuals because, what their sexual experience that they're looking for may be very, very different. And what they're looking to work on may be very different.
Is there one problem that you're getting time and time again, or is there?
For me, it goes through phases and cycles. So, for example, I might get an influx of clients approaching me because of erectile problems, for example, and then a couple of months later it will all be couples with issues around affairs, and it just seems to happen that way. It doesn't seem, for me, there doesn't seem to be a pattern.
No, I think it would be reasonable to say one of the areas that there's been an increase in is so-called, and I'm not very keen on the term, sex addiction or sexual behaviours that cause people a problem. Having perhaps sex outside a relationship in an excessive way. Those kind of behaviours, I think, are becoming more common because at one time, if say you had a particular penchant for a sexual kind of behaviour, it would be difficult to get. You'd have to go somewhere to get it. These days, with phones and smartphones and the internet, you can pick up what you want very quickly anywhere. So those kind of things, I think, are coming more into our general caseload as well.
Yeah, I think you talk about sex addiction. I've just been reading Mike Tyson's book, and he's almost openly admitted he's a sex addict, for want of a better phrase. It's quite an interesting book. And I think that would help a lot of people. How he's gone past the demons, and I mean, even when he was married, and he was chasing women, and well, actually didn't have to do much chasing, from what he says. When this is him saying it, they actually came to him and basically were offering it to him on a plate, with teeth organised. And it's quite. I mean, just imagine when you're like famous like him, it must be very difficult.
I think that the tremendous pressures, because as you say, there are people who always want to sleep with a celebrity. I think for people like Mike Tyson, I haven't read the book, people imagine sex addiction is always a pleasurable thing. It's often a very destructive, difficult thing for people to experience because their behaviour is out of control. So often they're not getting pleasure from it. They're actually struggling very much as they would with any kind of addiction. But I mean, I guess as a service, though, we do use the term. We prefer to use difficult behaviours around sex. Having difficulty with that.
Because with reading the book, and it's almost like it's like the old notches on the bedpost game. I mean, there's one particular thing where he has a 13-bedroom house, and he actually said his goal was to get 13 women in each. Well, not 13 women, but one woman in each of the bedrooms. And I think from what I remember in the book, he actually achieves it. But lucky fella or unlucky fella, depends on which way you like to look at it. So yeah, it's so do you see the cycles the same as?
We see very similar cycles, and I think for therapists like Krystal and I, we would see that a lot of the behaviours that develop in that way sometimes come from childhood and attachment theory. So it can involve a very long pathway of why somebody has actually ended up exhibiting those behaviours.
So do you find that a lot of your clients, it's mental rather than physical, rather in that way, or?
Well, we would certainly deal with the emotional, psychological factors that underpin the physical presentation of a problem. So, an example, like somebody comes to you with a physical problem, saying, I've got, for a woman it might be something called vaginismus, where they have difficulty having intercourse, or a man who has an erectile problem. Quite often they think it's a physical problem, although they've often been to the GP by that point and they've not found any physical cause for it. So then we would deal with the psychological or emotional reasons that underpin that and work backwards from there to resolve the issue.
Because you can't actually prescribe drugs?
No, we don't prescribe drugs.
No. And often the drugs that are prescribed will work, but they don't deal with the psychological problem that's actually playing into it.
Masking the problem rather
than... it's
than...
kind of like putting sort of a sticky tape on the problem.
Yeah.
Often it's much more productive for people if you can actually peel it right the way back and look at what's actually psychologically happening.
Okay, let's take a break and have a message from one of our sponsors. Now I'm going to play the old 80s classic from Loose Ends called Hanging on a String.
MK Flyers Online, the fast and simple way to find any kind of business or service locally. Find us at mkflyersonline.co.uk or download the MK Flyers mobile app from your app store. MK Flyers Online proudly supports Seclo Sounds, community radio for Milton Keynes.
us a little bit more about, obviously, you're two of the counsellors at the centre. You obviously have a big support team as well, or of other people who work in the centre. So how many people actually work at the centre?
We've got, there's 20 qualified counsellors and psychotherapists and 12 trainees at the moment. Those are people who work with us under close clinical supervision, who see clients for us, and they are, as I say, they're able to offer a reduced fee service, which is wonderful for people who don't have the financial wherewithal to be able to access the full cost service. So quite a team, all qualified in very different models, and all the qualified staff are people who've had significant experience. They're not newly qualified staff. So yes, it's quite a team to keep tabs on.
Mm. And you said about low cost. Obviously people are on a budget nowadays. Can you give us sort of a rough?
Sessions are from £15 each. I mean, we have a system where we work it on sort of a means-tested system, if you like. That works really roughly about £1,000 of household income. So we would charge £1 per £1,000. Roughly speaking, there are always situations where one has to take other things into consideration. For example, if somebody was perhaps a gambling addict, they might have financial problems, so you would take that into consideration, but that's a broad rule of thumb. We're very lucky in our work. We're supported very well by our practice manager, Kathy Saunders, who's always available to help people and to work these things with them.
Is Kathy the first port of call when you normally
Kathy
ring
is
up?
our first port of call. She's a very experienced practice manager who's worked in mental health for many years and has worked in medicine for many years as a support administrative worker. And she would be the first port of call for people and will then sort with them which is the best pathway for them to follow.
Because I guess you said you got there's 12 of you or 14 of you. Some of you must specialise perhaps in certain things.
Yes, we do. We do. I mean, some people are like Krystal and I, specialist psychosexual and relationship therapists. We have cognitive behaviour therapists, hypnotherapists, just about every kind of model you can think of that we have represented. And we have people within that who are specialists in particular conditions. So, for example, something that's often very hard to deal with, obsessive compulsive disorder, we have a specialist therapist who deals with obsessive compulsive disorder. And we also are fortunate enough to have a psychiatrist, a consultant psychiatrist, who works in the team with us.
Okay. I mean, obviously you can't go into specific cases. Is there a case that's really challenged you, or a particular problem that's challenged you more than anything else?
I think the problems all problems are challenging.
Yeah,
I say, and there's been so many.
I think often the problems that challenge you are often something to do with yourself and your own position in it. So yes, there are of course always things that are very challenging. I think for a lot of people, a lot of the trainees tell me that some of the work that's challenging to them is probably the sex addiction work that's challenging, because it is so distressing for people.
I would agree, I would echo that as well. The challenges are very personal to each individual counsellor, but I think there's always something new, isn't there? There are always kind of new considerations that pop up, just depending on the clients that you're seeing. That it kind of all builds in your experience base, really, and
Okay, so if you've got a problem, we need to contact you. So you ring Kathy, and then she puts you in touch with a specialist, and then what happens then?
Well, it depends. If you go to the low-cost service, if that's the service you're going to access, you'll have a full assessment with one of our assessment team, who will then place you with the appropriate trainee to your needs. If it's a full-cost problem, if it's people who come in to see a full-cost therapist, Kathy will know who is a specialist in which area, and will offer. It will try and match up the needs of the client with the therapist's expertise. And as I say, for those clients who have more perhaps complex needs, we are also able to offer a psychiatric assessment if the client wants that.
Okay. And you always, after you've been assigned a counsellor, you always stick with the same one?
Yes.
So you see,
Yes, you would. I mean, obviously, we cannot all be everything to everybody, and we can always say that, we can always account that somebody might just not click together. They might not get on. And we would always work with that if that did happen. We understand that could be the case. We don't have egos. We realise that it's, quite possible that we're not the right person for them, and we would work with the client to find the best person to help them go forward.
Yeah, and it might be that you see somebody who presents with I might see somebody who presents with a psychosexual issue, and we work through that quite successfully, but they have a residual problem with something else, so it might be in the field of work-related stress or anxiety or OCD, so I might refer them on to a colleague with their
it's
condition.
not like, when you go to the GP, you basically get who. And you might not see the same doctor every week.
We try to be a little bit more reactive to the needs of the client. I think in that way, and I think without sort of blowing our chops, we've been quite successful at that. I mean, Krystal has won a national prize for her work, and so has one of my other colleagues, Julie Sales. So I think that that's a testament really to the quality of the work that we are able to do.
So, what prize did you win then, Krystal? Come on then, spill the beans on that one. You kept that one quiet.
I got the College of Sexual and Relationship Therapists, which is the accrediting body of psychosexual therapists. So I got awarded Student of the Year for some work I did with a particular client, basically. So I submitted a case study of the work that I'd done with that client. So.
And you, what's that, national award?
Yes.
Well done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I mean, that's not bad, is it? Really? That's a.
All three we have three directors of the service, of which I'm the clinical director, and all of us work at a national level as well as within the home counties. So we all sit on sort of boards of the national committees, which kind of means that we're all at the cutting edge of the work.
So you might get a call from another centre and say, I've got this person or people who and they've got this problem I've never heard of before, or. You may get a call from somebody like that, and then you'll...
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, and particularly from other general counsellors, because it is important in this work that you are properly trained. It's not something you can just, think that you can deal with without some proper training.
Okay, well, we're almost out of time. Let's just go through how people can contact you. The centre.
Can I give the phone number?
Of course, give the phone
Right.
number. Let's just... it's called the Local Counselling Centre.
That's correct.
And you're based... Well, you can...
Based in Letchworth in Hertfordshire and Rest Park in Bedfordshire. And phone number is 01462 674 671, and that will get you through to Kathy Saunders, our practice manager.
Okay.
And the website, which is full of lots of information and really current ongoing blogs, is www.localcounsellingcentre.co.uk.
And then you have an email address.
We do indeed.
Well.
It's hello@localcounsellingcentre.co.uk.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your time today, Joe and Krystal. It's been an absolute pleasure. Something very different for the show today. Thank you, and
Thank you very
good luck
much.
with the centre.
Gary Fitz here, every Monday, 10 o'clock. Coming up, we've got Eric and Ernie. Join me here on Seclo Sounds.
In your smile.
It's from 1975, Eric and Ernie were four...
Gary, it's not Eric and Ernie, it's Earl and Ernie, the Cape Brothers, Union Man.
Oh, I see. Gary Fitz here, every Monday, 10 o'clock.
Earl and Ernie.
Good times, these are
There we are, that was Chic and Good Times. Almost at the end of the show. Time has really flown today. I'd like to thank Krystal and Joe for being my guest today. Next week on the show I have the MD of Want That Dress, Carol Hansen. So we're in for a bit of a treat if you're into fashion next week. Anyhow, we're almost out of time. As always, I've been Terry Sullivan. This has been the Sticks Radio Show. Until next week, it's bye for now, and I'll leave you with Prince and Let's Go Crazy. Sounds like my show every week.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to get through this thing called life. Electric word, life, it means forever, and that's a mighty long time. But I'm here to tell you, there's something else. The afterworld. A world of never-ending happiness. You can always see the sun, day or night. So when you call up that shrink in Beverly Hills, you know the one, doctor, everything will be alright. Instead of asking how much of your time is left, ask him how much of your mind, baby. Cause in this life, things are much harder than in the afterworld. This life, you're on your own. And if the elevator tries to break you down, go crazy, punch a higher floor.
If you'd like to be a guest on the show, on a future show, or you know somebody who'd love to be a guest on the show, would like just like to comment on the show, or maybe request a record for a friend, a relative, auntie, or just one for yourself, I have a brand new email address which you can contact me on. It's thesticks@seclosounds.org.
You're listening to Seclo Sounds, the community radio station for Milton Keynes.
MK Pulse proudly sponsors Seclo Sounds. MK Pulse is Milton Keynes' local magazine, bringing helpful information on food, health, fashion, money, travel, culture, and much more to 66,000 readers every month. Plus news, views, and what's on from around the city. If it's happening in Milton Keynes, it's in MK Pulse, and it's available online at www.mkpulse.co.uk. MK Pulse and Seclo Sounds, the heart and soul of the city.